Welcome back, everyone. So as we are approaching the end of this diagram, we are going to start touching upon the final topics here. And these ones are a little easier to understand. Everything we've looked at so far is actually the major components that live inside the majority of systems. The remaining ones now are additional, I would say, must-haves at systems of scale and many large products, but they aren't 100% necessary, but they're quite easy to understand. So what we're talking about next is data hose and a data warehouse. So when you look at this system here, what you see is the browser client to the load balancer to the web server, and then the web server communicating to the data hose and the data warehouse. For simplicity's sake, let's remove the load balancer. I'm removing it just so that we can see how the browser client and the web server directly interact with the data hose and the data warehouse. But let's talk about what that data hose and data warehouse are. First of all, let's talk about data. What is the data? As you know, many companies and the tech industry today live and die by the data they collect from their user behavior. Whenever you interact with any part of the application, when you click buttons, when you interact with news feeds, when you interact with the search bar and the things that you search, and then the different links that you click and when you click them, any interaction that you have on the website, companies are trying to extract that data, collect that data, store that data, synthesize that data, and then analyze that data to better understand user behavior. Many companies even sell that data to advertisers in order to get more profit, because at the end of the day, when they're able to understand the user's behavior, they're able to make a profit or improve the product. But how do they gather this data? Well, as I mentioned, there are numerous ways that you can do it. There's numerous solutions out there. All of us have heard of Google Analytics, which is one very common solution, but many companies roll their own. In order to roll your own, you are going to utilize a data hose and a data warehouse. So here underneath web servers, you'll see that I put behaviors. Essentially what's happening is that they're trying to capture in this moment whenever the web server does some type of interaction. Like imagine you were making a payment. When that payment is going through, or whenever a query is going through for a user, the web server, as we know, holds a lot of that business logic. When that business logic is firing, there may be a chance to generate that raw data. That raw data will just have details regarding what that event is as far as the need to store it goes. It then gets passed to the data hose, and then the data hose will pass it on to the data warehouse. Now, we can do this through the web server, or we can do this directly from the browser client. I'm showing you this line cutting through because depending on where you host your data hose, you may be able to expose it publicly. Chances are it's also going to go through web servers, or it might go through some other entry point inside your system. But the key thing here is that you can also capture user behavior directly in the application. It doesn't always have to be fired through the web server. You can also easily fire it from the front end. That's why I'm drawing you this line. It's more metaphorical in the sense that you can easily imagine how with Google Analytics, you run the library directly on the front end application and then you fire off data into the data fire hose. Same thing happens here. It's just instead of using Google Analytics, if you're rolling your own solution, you would of course fire off this raw data that encapsulates the user's interactions into the data hose. Now, regardless, whatever means you get that data into the data hose will then take the raw data and massage it into a format that is more readable, or it's in a format that we want to store in the data warehouse. But we still keep the raw data. And the reason why is because we're going to fire both of these into the data warehouse. And the data warehouse is just a storage solution. It could be similar to most databases. It's just depending on how you want to store your data, you might roll a different style of storage. But the key thing here is mainly just you have a data hose that is the entry point for all of the raw data of user actions or behaviors or just different events that are firing in your system. And then the data hose will modify and change the structure or massage the data in a way. And then you store both in the data warehouse. You want both the massage data, but also the raw data. And that's it. The main thing here, again, of why you do this is to collect data on your users and then synthesize it so that you can make better decisions off of that data. Now, what you do with all of this enormous amount of data is up to you and up to your system and up to your business goals. But the main thing, at the very least, as far as the solution goes inside of our system, is just that that's how we get it into the actual system design. So that's it. That's all the data hose and data warehouse do for us. So let's move on to the next topic.